It was the kind of winter morning that made breathing feel like an effort, the frigid air biting with every breath. Amelia stood at the platform, wrapped in her thick woolen coat, hands deep in her pockets. She watched as the train approached, its headlights slicing through the veil of fog that had settled over the station. Her heart thudded loudly in her chest, keeping time with the rumbling of the approaching locomotive. This was it, the final goodbye. For as long as she could remember, Liam had been a part of her life. They had met in the summer before high school, two kids with wild imaginations and an unquenchable thirst for adventure. From skipping rocks across the lake to climbing the oak tree in her backyard, every memory seemed to hold Liam's shadow. But things were different now. War had broken out overseas, and the government had issued the draft. Liam had been called, and in just a few short hours, he would be on a train bound for a future neither of them could predict. They had known this day was coming for weeks, yet neither was ready to face it. Amelia stared at her shoes, the tip of her boot kicking at the dust on the station's worn wooden floor, willing herself not to cry. As the train came to a screeching halt, the steam hissing in release, Liam appeared beside her, his bag slung over his shoulder. The grin on his face didn't reach his eyes, but he tried to mask the fear that gnawed at him, tried to convince himself that this wasn't the last time they would see each other. He touched her arm gently. "You'll write to me, right?" The first part of the story recounts Amelia and Liam's childhood together, exploring how their friendship blossomed into a deep and unbreakable bond. There are scenes of laughter, shared secrets, and small-town adventures, moments that cemented their connection. Despite the innocence of those early years, there was always an unspoken tension, a sense that time was moving faster than either of them could control. The world outside their bubble was shifting, and war was a growing shadow on the horizon. When the draft notice comes, it's like a gut punch to Amelia. The town changes as more and more young men are called to serve, and fear settles into the hearts of those left behind. Liam's enlistment brings a deep sense of foreboding. Letters are exchanged at first, but as the war drags on, communication becomes more sporadic. The tone of Liam's letters changes, too. He starts out optimistic, reassuring Amelia that he'll be fine, but the grim realities of war start to seep in. Amelia, too, begins to change. She feels the weight of her worry and loneliness. There are moments when she considers moving on with her life, but the thought of Liam being out there alone, fighting, keeps her from fully letting go. Months stretch into a year, and the letters come less frequently. Amelia begins to notice a difference in Liam's tone, a heaviness that wasn't there before. He speaks less of the war's horrors, but his silence tells her everything. With each new day, she wonders if he will make it back alive. At home, she throws herself into work, trying to occupy her mind. She helps in local war relief efforts and even takes a part-time job at the train station, hoping to hear any news from the front. But it seems like the entire town is holding its breath, waiting for the inevitable telegram that would shatter their lives. One day, Amelia receives a letter that chills her to the bone. It's not from Liam, but from one of his fellow soldiers. Liam has been injured, badly. He's alive, but the injury has left him permanently scarred, both physically and emotionally. Amelia is crushed, and all she can think about is seeing him again. Chapter 4, The Return, 1200 words. Months after the injury, Liam is sent home. The reunion Amelia had dreamed of is far from what she had imagined. The Liam that steps off the train is not the same boy who left. He is quieter, withdrawn, and struggles with both his physical limitations and the mental scars from the war. He's changed, and no amount of love can fix the brokenness inside him. The days are difficult. Amelia tries her best to be supportive, but Liam is distant, closed off, and seems lost in his own world. The weight of the war hangs between them like a specter. No matter how much she tries to bridge the gap, Liam pulls away. Chapter 5, The Final Goodbye, 1200 words. As the weeks turn into months, it becomes painfully clear that Liam is not healing, not really. Despite his return, he's still far away, trapped in memories of the battlefield. The man standing before Amelia is no longer the boy she once loved. There's an emptiness in his eyes that she can't reach. One evening, after yet another argument, Liam confesses that he doesn't know if he can stay. The war may be over, but he is still fighting his own battles. In the quiet of the night, he tells Amelia that he needs to go, to leave everything behind and try to find peace, if such a thing is even possible. The decision isn't easy, but Amelia knows deep down that there is nothing she can do to save him. She's been holding on to a version of Liam that no longer exists, and it's time to let go. On a cold autumn morning, much like the day he left for war, Amelia watches as Liam boards a train. This time, though, there are no promises of letters, no expectations of his return. He looks back at her one last time, a shadow of a smile crossing his face, and then he's gone. The station is empty. Amelia stands there for a long while, staring at the tracks until they blur with her tears. It's over, and yet, a part of her feels that this is just the beginning of a new chapter in her life. She had said goodbye to Liam, but in doing so, she had finally said goodbye to the past. Epilogue, 500 words. Years later, Amelia finds herself back at the station. The war has become a distant memory, but the scars it left behind remain. She has moved on with her life, finding love and peace in unexpected places, but every now and then, she thinks of Liam. One day, as she waits for a train to take her to a new city, she glances at the platform and sees a familiar figure. It's an older man, weathered by time, with a limp in his step and a sadness in his eyes. She doesn't approach him, and he doesn't see her, but she knows in her heart that it's Liam. Their paths cross one last time, but no words are exchanged. In that moment, Amelia knows that she's finally ready to say her last goodbye. This is a rough outline of the story, with approximately 5,000 words distributed across the chapters. Let me know if you'd like to develop specific parts further or expand the details. The Last Goodbye, Part 2. Chapter 6, A Home That Doesn't Feel Like Home, 1,000 words. Liam returned home, but his spirit had remained somewhere in the foreign soil where his comrades had fallen. The small town, once full of familiar comfort, now felt suffocating. The quaint streets, the towering oak trees, and the lake where he and Amelia had spent so many lazy afternoons no longer carried the warmth of memories. Instead, they felt like distant echoes from another life. The first few weeks after his return, Liam tried to adjust. He attempted to sink into the rhythm of civilian life, even attending a few gatherings with old friends who had avoided the draft. They welcomed him back with hesitant smiles and awkward conversation, as if unsure how to navigate the raw space his experiences had created. Amelia was there, always by his side, offering gentle words and patient silence when necessary. She smiled, but he could see the concern hidden behind her eyes. Despite her support, Liam felt the growing chasm between them. There were nights when he lay awake, unable to sleep, haunted by images of the battlefield. The sounds of explosions, the screams of his brothers in arms, the smell of smoke, they lived within him, clinging to him like ghosts. Amelia would stir beside him, sensing his unrest, but he never spoke. How could he explain something she would never understand? How could he burden her with the weight of his nightmares? Amelia tried everything she could to break through his walls. She would cook his favorite meals, invite him on walks around town, and even suggest that they visit the lake where they once skipped stones as children. But no matter what she did, Liam remained distant, his mind locked in a place where she couldn't follow. One evening, as they sat in the kitchen together, Amelia placed her hand over his, her voice soft but filled with determination. "Liam," she said, her thumb gently brushing the back of his hand, "I need you to talk to me. I need to know what's going on inside your head."